Ukraine decided to boycott the qualifying games for the 2024 Paris Olympics in which Russia will take part, CNN International reports. The Minister of Ukraine, Dary Nemchinov, announced the decision in an interview with the Ukrainian television Suspiln on Thursday local time. Earlier, International Olympic Committee (IOC) President Thomas Bach outlined new guidelines on Tuesday allowing Russian and Belarusian athletes to compete but under neutral flags. Athletes from both countries were previously banned from most international competitions since February 2022 after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Today at a government meeting, a protocol decision was made based on the proposal of my colleague, Minister of Sports of Ukraine and President of the National Olympic Committee of Ukraine, Vadim Gutzeit, that we will only participate in qualifying competitions where there are no Russians, said Nemchinov. Nemchinov admits it was not an easy decision. This means that Ukrainian athletes will lose their chance to participate in the Olympics. "You know, I wouldn't wish it on anyone," said Nemchinov when asked what would happen to the Ukrainian athlete. "Yesterday, I attended the funeral of a good acquaintance of mine, who devoted more than 20 years to athletics and died in the Kharkiv area. He left 3 children. He volunteered for his second war. And he is not a canteen cook, let's put it that way. That is, he served in a combat unit," says Nemchinov. "So, I would like to inform our fellow athletes who are worried that because of the decision of the IOC and the entry of Russia or Belarus into the competition, Ukraine will not be able to participate, their careers will be ruined or something else. But actually, your life and that of your children will be saved," Nemchinov added. Ukrainian athlete Vladislav Herashkovich told CNN on Wednesday that the IOC's decision to allow Russian and Belarusian athletes to participate in international competitions was a slap in the face. "The slap was not only for Ukrainian athletes but for all Ukrainians and all Ukrainians," he added. But Herashkovich also told CNN that boycotting Paris 2024 should be done by the athletes themselves and they should decide their own path. According to the IOC's latest recommendations, athletes with Russian or Belarusian passports must compete only as individual neutral athletes and meet all anti-doping requirements. Meanwhile, those who support the war or are contracted for military or national service cannot compete. The IOC also said that a decision on the participation of athletes with Russian or Belarusian passports in the Paris 2024 Olympics will be made at a later stage. The Kremlin called the guidelines containing elements of discrimination. Last month, the US and more than 30 other countries supported a proposal to ban Russian and Belarusian athletes from competing in international sports, according to a joint statement. Meanwhile, Ukraine's sports minister said in January that his country would not rule out boycotting the Olympics if Russian and Belarusian athletes were allowed to compete in Paris 2024. Last week, World Athletics President Sebastian Coe announced Russian and Belarusian athletes would still be excluded from World Athletics Series events for the foreseeable future, reaffirming the organization's March 2022 decision. Russian military staff. No mobilization of troops, all voluntary for military service. The spokesman for the main organizational and mobilization directorate of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, Vladimir Simlyansky, said there was no mobilization of the Russian army. Vladimir Simlyansky said the new Russian troops were citizens and volunteers called up for special operations. "I want to assure you all that there is no second wave of mobilization in the plans of the General Staff," said Vladimir Simlyansky. "Those who have been called up for military service, as well as citizens who have voluntarily expressed a desire to participate in the operation, are sufficient to fulfill the assigned duties," he continued. Because of this, according to Vladimir Simlyansky, Russia already has a larger number of volunteers for military service. At present, the number of citizens who have decided to voluntarily enlist for conscription on the basis of a contract has also increased significantly, he said, quoted from Sputnik. He said there would be several selections to place them. For their timely registration, the Ministry of Defense expanded the network of selection points for selection into military service on a contract basis and increased the number of instructors to work with candidates, said Vladimir Simlyansky. In October 2022, the Minister of Defense of Russia, Sergei Shoigu, announced that Russia had achieved its recruitment goal through mobilization. He said this during a televised meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. We have stopped sending notifications to people, and the task you set, 300,000 people, has been completed, Sergei Shoigu told Vladimir Putin, quoted by the Moscow Times. No further action is planned, he continued. Russia spreads army registration ads. The Russian government opened the registration of troops for participation in the war in Ukraine. They placed advertisements in several institutions such as high schools and libraries. In the ad, they offer salaries of up to $2,500, plus $100 per day for those involved in active offensive operations in Ukraine. The Russian government also promised a bonus of $650 per kilometer for soldiers who manage to advance and control further territory, quoted from the Telegraph. For registrants, will get a one-time bonus of $3,800. Russia placed advertisements and billboards in a number of areas. On the billboard, written various attractive benefits if they join the Russian military. Other benefits offered include reduced taxes and loans, preferential university admission status for his children, family compensation if he is injured, killed, and veteran status with benefits. Turkish parliament approves Finland joining NATO. Russia gives warning. Turkey's parliament has approved a bill to ratify Finland's accession protocol to NATO on Thursday. With that, Finland has obtained the legal basis for joining NATO. The decision was taken after elections were held by the 276 members of the Turkish parliament. The vote was the last hurdle Finland faced. However, the ruling only applies to Finland, not Sweden, its neighbor and potential fellow NATO member. Finland and Sweden applied for membership on May 18, 2022, after Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24, 2022, according to the Moscow Times. Turkey is the last line of defense among NATO member states, which need to approve a new member unanimously. After notifying the United States that it has agreed to Finland's offer, Jens Stoltenberg, Secretary General of NATO, will formally invite Finland to accede to the Washington Agreement, according to NATO. Turkey reluctant to agree to Swedish proposal in early March 2023, Turkish President Erdogan said he would not support Swedish membership. Previously, Turkey asked Sweden to extradite terrorists affiliated with the Kurdistan Workers' Party, PKK. NATO officials said Sweden had met the terms of an earlier agreement on the matter. Apart from Turkey, a NATO member country, Hungary also ratified Finland's proposal last week. Like Turkey, Hungary also ruled out Sweden's proposal due to political issues. Hungary says Sweden has repeatedly wanted to attack its country through diplomatic means, quoted by Reuters. They accused Sweden of using its political influence to harm Hungary's interests. Zoltán Kovács, spokesman for the Hungarian government, said it might be possible to consider this if the Swedes changed their course and helped heal the wounds of the Hungarian nation. Sweden and Finland want to join NATO. Finland and Sweden ended their position as non-aligned countries. They submitted their proposal for NATO membership in May 2022, approximately 3 months since Russia invaded Ukraine. NATO membership requires approval by all of its 30 member states. Reasons: Finland and Sweden want to join NATO. The Russian invasion of Ukraine left Sweden and Finland feeling vulnerable. Finland shares a direct border with Russia, while Sweden shares a direct border with Finland. Finland's joining NATO automatically makes NATO's territorial borders right in front of Russia, apart from Estonia and Latvia. For many Finns, the Russian invasion of Ukraine carries haunting memories, such as when the Soviet Union invaded Finland in late 1939. Meanwhile, Sweden has also felt threatened in recent years. Sweden reports Russia has committed several airspace violations using military aircraft. In 2014, Sweden received reports of a Russian submarine lurking in the shallows off the Stockholm archipelago. Finland and Sweden risk joining NATO. Apart from receiving protection from NATO member countries, Sweden and Finland also received threats from Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin once said that NATO's presence on its borders was a threat. Finland opened NATO's doors wider, right in front of Russia, so that the joining of the two countries was seen as a provocation by Russia. The Russian Foreign Ministry, Sergei Lavrov, said both countries had been warned about the consequences of the move. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev also warned that NATO accession could encourage Russia to deploy nuclear weapons in Kaliningrad, quoted by BBC International. Seen on a world map, Kaliningrad is a small area belonging to Russia that sits between Poland and Lithuania. While not discounting this threat, former Finnish PM Alexander Stubb sees more realistic risks such as Russian cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, and airspace violations.